There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play? They're here.
Welcome to the Horror Cut.
How's it going, guys? Steg here from the Horror Cut. I've got a very special episode for you this week. Unfortunately, I don't have Gary available with me tonight. He is getting ready to go and drink himself stupid over in the States for Scotland in the World Cup. So I'm left to my lonesome. I am not technically minded in any way of sorts. So this is a challenge for me in recording an episode with two fabulous guests. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
No, you go first, Gary. Let's be polite.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Well, I'm the substitute Gary for now. I'm Gary Francis Roche. I'm a filmmaker and recently been invited to be part of the Echo Cell Collective, and involving vertical shorts as well as other exciting projects on the horizon.
And I'm David Wing. I'm the founder of Echo Cell Collective and Echo Cell Productions. We're a horror community of I think around 120 plus individuals across the globe at this point, from filmmakers like Gary, podcasters like Stephen and other Gary, and a bit of everything else that is horror minded. And we are venturing into the realm of vertical content, specifically horror.
Thank you very much. Actually, Gary, can I just, when I was preparing for the interview, obviously your surname, I was like, how do I pronounce it?
Yes, I had this all the time. I've had different variations of my surname. I had Roche, I had Roche, I have Roche even. It's actually Roche. So think Ferrero Rocher, but if you knock off the R at the end, there you go. That should help you remember it.
Yeah.
Just
Am
think
I
of the
right in saying
chocolate.
it? Am I right in saying it's Francis, Gary Francis? It's funny because I think I did see the. Is there a Ferrero Rocher in your name? Like maybe like a.
My
H name?
my Instagram name is Gary Ferrero Roche. So it's kind of like, bit of humor to
You
the
can
name.
imagine, yeah. You can imagine my sort of freaking out and going, "How do I?" Like, I don't want to like bring you on and be like, and mess up your name. So that was partly my.
I'm very happy to call me Gary Ferrero Roche. I'll be laughing at myself.
Amazing. But yeah, we are just going to, I guess, why we kind of brought you guys on is, David, you've sent me some notes on things that you want to discuss. But just for our listeners, I think in the broad hour that we've got, I think we'll be looking at Gary's career, obviously David with Echo Cell Collective. We also want to touch on vertical films as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's vertical short films, so it's the idea of so I suppose the best thing is to do is to give a bit of an overview about what this realistically is globally and where it's sort of going. So vertical content is literally what you're seeing right now from my perspective. It's literally when you set up your phone, you're watching anything in the vertical format. It's not horizontal. It is straight on, which means that it limits the amount of information you can actually get. Unlike with other feature films and various other content where you're watching it horizontally and you can see the landscape aspect of it, you can see the broad image base. Here it reduces what you can actually see and what you can actually take on board, and it becomes a real challenge for filmmakers, and that's part of the beauty of it. So I think it's about 5 or 6 years ago now, film studios in China started really delving into drama and romance and telenovelas to some extent within this vertical format, and it basically took off. It's now a multi-billion-dollar industry over in China, which means obviously the US followed suit very soon afterwards. And I think they're about half a million, 500 million to $1 billion turnaround there now. There are various different apps that you can download just like any other streaming service. with ads applicable to them, and you can watch as much content as you want. And usually the idea is that as they're vertical, they are reduced in their time frame slots. So they're put down in parts, and usually 5 minutes, usually at most, per piece. And you've effectively got a story that's split out over the course of weeks or months or however long it's popular. And I was speaking with a colleague of about 5 or 6 months ago and realized that horror wasn't represented within this format, this new genre that we're looking at. And I thought, well, this is exactly what we want to be doing. This is an opportunity for filmmakers, talented creators that are in between features. They're maybe in pre-production, or they're just looking for funding for their next larger piece, to keep their hand in and to actually delve into a completely new genre approach and see exactly what they can put out there, to sort of channel back to their earlier university film school days, when they were actually trying to get films done on no budget, because all of our films are on no budget. And the idea is to lean directly into your creativity and the constraints of the vertical format approach. And that's what we've done. So I approached a number of individuals, Gary being one, and I think we have 9 or 10 other directors across the globe at this point. We've got João over in Brazil, where I am. We've got Gerson, who's in Chile. And then we've got UK, US, Italy, and a few other places as well. And everybody is writing their short stories to then put out on our social media. And the approach was take a script, a 10-minute script, split it into five parts, ends on a cliffhanger each time, just as you would do in any horror, but obviously we're truncating it somewhat because there's a limit. It goes out Monday to Friday once it's all been edited, and each cliffhanger ends with, a knife going into the throat, or somebody being strangled or pulled off screen, or whatever it is. Think back to the serials that you had in the 1950s and 60s that we've seen through YouTube and everything, because none of us were around long enough to actually see that, and really delve into that. And we approached people within the collective and try to keep it in-house effectively, and open it up to all the creativity that we had, which is basically to say, look, we've got a script here, we've got a director, we want you to bring your artistic chops to it and see what you can come up with, and that's what we're doing.
Oh, that's incredible. And Gary, you're on board.
Yeah, so I was invited by David, I think it must be about 3 weeks, somewhere close to a month. David approached me on Instagram, he DM'd me, and he came across my debut feature. It was a Screen Life horror film called Demo N, and it was a film about four friends meeting up on a video chat for a friends reunion, like a watch party. And my character, we were all playing ourselves. So my character, Gary, gets an anonymous email with a link to a video game which turns out to be cursed. And I decide to play it, and it ends up, I obliviously invite it into the chats, and it's down to me to play these levels in these games to save my friend's life, because there's these avatars that look like us. So if they die in the game or get possessed in the game, they get possessed in reality. So that was kind of my transition from short films going into features, because prior to that, I've done short films, documentaries, corporate work. I was a freelance camera operator, storyboard artist. I've been disciplined in animation, visual effects, as well as acting way before I started off in my filmmaking trajectory. And then, coming off the back end of Demo N, it got picked up by Found TV, which is a brand new streaming service that's catered toward promoting all things found footage. We had a shout out from Dread Central and Fangoria, which was amazing. And then, in the past year, we've grown an audience. And then, that's what led to David, out of the blue, just reached out to me, asked me if I wanted to be a part of Echo Cell Collective and make a vertical short for them, and make it as part of, I believe, if I'm probably mistaken, make it part of a 10-minute anthology for it to be released on Found TV. Am I in the right ballpark there, David?
I mean, I wasn't going to drop that, Gary, but yes, that's the hope.
I mean, if you want, I can edit that out if you whatever you think.
That's all. No, it's absolutely fine. No, so the approach was basically find a bunch of really talented individuals, ask them to write and work with us to write, whether it's they're the script writer or not. I wrote a couple of ideas down, sent them off to directors. They tweak them 3 or 4 times because they weren't great, and then come up with the idea of how to actually make these films on zero budget, using cast and crew that they knew within their areas. I mean, because these are filmmakers. I'm based in Brazil. Gary's in the UK. We've got Ashley who's over in South Yorkshire at the minute. We've got David who's in Italy. We've got James in the US and Tom in the US and a bunch of others dotting here, there, and everywhere. And the idea is they use the resources that they have on zero budget, absolutely zero. It's not, oh, we had only 100,000. It was no budget filmmaking. No, this is zero budget filmmaking. This is, using your own equipment because it's phones and editing, and everybody works together to actually complement. So we have editors. We have a Polish editor that's working on the first film that we shot. We have an American editor that's going to work on some other ones, and then we've got the filmmakers that are actually working on their own stuff. And ultimately, what we want is the shorts that are produced will go onto social media first and foremost. We've already done that with I Will Kill You and Umbral, which is a 9-part series film. So effectively you have 10 parts of films almost all ready to go. The next part for Umbral is out on Monday. And these all play on social media, on Instagram first and foremost. And then when we hit a certain threshold, the idea is for them to sit on, we believe, onto Found TV within their vertical setup on their app. We just need to hit a certain level of content, because obviously you don't sort of set something up and going when you've only got one short 3-minute film to watch. You need more content than that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's the approach. And we want to be as varied as possible. We want as many different voices as possible from across the globe. And yeah, the kind of content, the kind of horror that's coming out, is really varied. Jean in Brazil filmed I Will Kill You, which is basically an actor taking part in a English language course on her laptop, and something within the laptop kills her. Spoiler alert. Gerson's Umbral is very much an ethereal, demented journey. And I think when you watch the whole thing all the way through, you're going to feel like you're on some kind of LSD trip watching it. He's a very inventive individual with his editing. He did use a little bit of AI in it, but only where it was absolutely necessary. And obviously we've got the film that we've been working on, our first film that we shot, which is called Echo Hell Collective, which is 5 actors from the collective, and then everybody else's as well. It's shot across 3 different countries and 2 different continents. So Spain, the UK, and the US, with a Polish editor, a British writer director, and an American producer. So we really wanted to go all out, and that's, we hope, will be finished editing and live next week. So the more content we get out and the more directors we can get involved, more writers and more performers, we're fully open to actors getting involved, other directors getting involved. It's an open forum for creativity.
Okay.
And yeah, and that's it. Keep your hand in, try something new, and be at the forefront of a genre, of a format of horror filmmaking that has only just started. Yeah. At last count, I think there's 2 or 3 horror studios, within the vertical format sort of area that are trying to do anything, and they're small, because they're trying to do it from, right from the off, and there's little to no budgets for them as well. So we're doing what we can to make a difference.
And that surprises me, with obviously horror and its pull and its possibilities in the sort of traditional realm of media. For something like this, you would think horror would be the sort of forefront of it.
Yeah,
at the very least.
Where are we? We're June, right? Mark my words, by the end of the year, major studios will be doing this, or it will be adopted into the other different streaming platforms that are already doing vertical content. They just happen to be doing it, at the moment for drama and romance, because they're the areas that they had planned out and they knew that they could sell towards. But given the amount of horror films that are absolutely smashing the box office at the moment, there's literally zero chance that this approach won't be taken on by other streaming services and platforms within the next 6 months.
And it's interesting, you said something about the budget kind of the budget constraints in terms of filmmakers that we all kind of have. You said something about it being, yeah, well, it's no budget, and it's almost like that's something to be proud of. It's like, yeah, exactly, we don't have a budget. This is why we're doing this. And it's sort of wearing that way. But pride is that sort of an idea
I think
throughout it as
so.
well?
I
Or?
think that's fair to say, yeah. Because it leans into the creativity from everybody involved, because everybody
Mhm.
that we're speaking to is either sort of in the middle of their career. Most of them actually are sort of in the middle stages of their career. They haven't gone full on into filmmaking where they're actually making ends meet. They're still having to work a day job,
Yeah.
or they're working to build up their channel or whatever else, but they're dedicated. They have a drive for horror. So they actually want to be involved in this. And it's not like 18-year-old Stephen goes out and asks his mates, I've got my phone, I've got an idea for a film, let's try and get something made. And then people drop out here, there, and everywhere, and it never ends up happening. When I'm approaching filmmakers to do this, it's look, there is zero budget. This is what we're doing. Everybody's dedicated, and you need to be 100% into it. You tell me your time frame, and we'll work towards that. Because the number of filmmakers are saying, when do you need this by? I'm really busy at the minute. And then I say, look, this is all based on you as the director because you're the one leading this. It doesn't matter where my support is coming from. You're the one that still has to go out with the phone camera and wrangle the scripts and wrangle the cast and crew together and find the locations. You're still leading the whole thing. So if you only have time to make this film in a month or 2 months down the line, but you're into it and you want to do it,
Oh,
100% go for it. Where are we? We have two films at the minute out, one that's getting edited. Gary's working on his at the minute, and we've got 6 or 7 others that are in various different levels of pre-production and production. So this is effectively an assembly line. For every film that's produced, we're going back to the beginning and starting another sequence. And there is no hurry for us because we're not beholden to a studio that we said, oh, we have the budget for this and you have to pay it and it has to have its release date. We don't have that. We would like to get as many out as possible so that we can get it onto the streaming service that we're aiming for, but there is no hurry for it. We just want quality first and foremost and dedication all the way through. If you want to make something and try and be at the forefront of something now,
yeah.
ask me 20 years ago, would I like to have actually bought some crypto coins, back in the day and held them in my back pocket or my digital wallet and then brought it through? Yes, I would. And I liken it the same way here because this is the forefront of filmmaking for horror. This is where it's going next. It's not taking over anything. It's just another avenue to go down. And we hope at some point we'll be able to throw some budget at it so that the filmmakers can hire maybe a name actor to take part, or to put some more money into post production because they need to do some coloration or some sound
Mhm.
editing that will bring more quality to it. Whatever it is, that's why we want to go next. But at the moment, it's a no budget with dedication all the way through, and that's what we're hoping for.
Amazing. It's funny talking about this. I remember maybe, God, what year to be on? I think it was around about 2018, maybe 2017, and I was just sort of out of training. I get cast in a end of year student film. My friend Joy, she became my friend after I met her, but she was directing it and she did the film on her phone. And it was that vertical format.
Mhm.
I think I shot for maybe 2 days the whole time I was there.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because once that got released, I don't know where it went afterwards and stuff. I didn't hear about vertical films after that, and I thought I would, but it's only been in the last year or so that it's sort of been sort of in the forefront of my mind. Gary speaks a lot about it as well. He really wants to get involved, so I will mention David. Don't be surprised if you get a message from Gary. Not this Gary,
That's
the
fine.
other Gary.
The other one.
Yeah.
But
The real Gary is getting drunk in America for the World Cup.
That's it.
so you
Yeah.
spoke about Demo N, and it's funny again, just like the name. So, and again, I was like, how do I pronounce this? When I speak to Gary, how do I
Yeah.
pronounce this?
So when it first came out, because this is one of the issues I had, because it was based off a short film of the same name that I made, and then long story short, the short kind of gained traction, and people were encouraging me to turn it into a feature. So the name Demo N, because that's how I pronounce it, but when the film came out, people were not sure, like you said, like how do I pronounce it? Do I call it /demo_N? And I was like, well, the word it's meant to be a wordplay of demon and video game demo. And at the start of the film, if you these are like little details that people can easily miss on first view, and you may catch on it if you watch it multiple times. But in the web browser, at the end of the cursed web browser, you see /demo_N, and then that kind of stuck to me like that should be the title of the film, and it was pretty much just like a bit of a humorous kind of title, and it kind of made sense as well because again, it kind of gives you based on how it's laid out, it gives you an idea of what you're going to be in for. So it's something that's going to involve a demon and demo because it's a video game and demo and we had to do kind of a redesign on the title when we put it on the poster and then when we eventually got it picked up by Terra Films releasing because people were mispronouncing the name or they were struggling to look for it on IMDb or on Letterboxd. So I thought, you know what we'll do? So let's just do the demo in 8-bit and isolate the N in brackets, and then that'll be easy for people. I mean, the people still call it Demon no matter what, but it just makes it easier for people to search.
Yeah, when I was trying to search for it, because I watched it in two parts. The second time I was like, how do I find this again? And it took me a
Yeah.
while, and I think I just scrolled down, and it was like continue watching, and I was like, ah, there we go. But if I didn't have that, I don't know what I would have done. But no, I really enjoyed it, and I was going to actually ask you. So that
Thank you.
type of format of filmmaking, and I've did a similar film as an actor where I was doing, it was over Zoom. This was kind of around about COVID, and it was the
Mm.
first time that I'd acted with someone, obviously in a different space, and I found it really, really freeing. I found
Mm.
and again, I'll say this with Demo N is like when I was watching it, I was so engrossed with the characters because I thought everyone had done a fantastic job. But how did you feel? Was that the first time that you'd
Oh,
filmed, performed in that
yeah.
capacity?
Yeah, I mean the first time was doing the short film because in the short film version it was just me and the feature version was like a fleshed out version of the short but with three other characters.
Okay.
Because I came from acting, I did acting before I went into filmmaking and it was really challenging when you're directing and acting at the same time because you kind of have to like 50-50 it. And also, all the dialogue was completely improvised as well. We had a scriptment, had a series of beats, like a script treatment. And how we recorded it was we used like I actually got these here. Like we shot it on these secondhand iPhones I got from Back Market. These quality headphones, these quality iPhones. And we would mount the iPhones on top of each of the actors' laptops because then when it came to the editing of the film, it allowed me in the editing process to kind of have control of the quality because you can't just capture it on Google Meet and you zoom in because then you lose image quality. So we shot it on the iPhones, but we used the G Meets video chat so the actors know who to look at, and we used the comment box. And
Right. Okay.
what I did prior before shooting is I sat with my DP and I had him act as my first AD while I was acting. And I gave him instructions like, here are the series of beats that I want you to throw in. And I'm giving you creative license on when to chuck it in to move the story along. But then when it came to editing it, we had like 2 hours of the conversation part. And I had to do a lot of these invisible edits. So the whole edit was like a house of cards when it came to cutting out the fat and driving the story along and maintaining those interesting moments that we caught because it was all entirely improvised. So that's how we got the dialogue completely natural. And also, I hid Anne Harrod from the other two friends. So the first time they got to meet was when we were recording. So I had them in their rooms and
Um,
I walked through them. This is what we're going to shoot today, and this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And there was a lot of happy accidents that ended up in the edit. For example, when Anne Harrod leaves, so like one of the lights went out, basically one of the LED lights went out, and she decided to intervene and try and sort it out. And I thought, I'm going to keep that in there because it left me focus on the candle lights, which then gets discussed when Sarah notices it, and that becomes the whole discovery of like her converted to Catholicism, and then she gets mocked by Nathan. So that wasn't in planned at all. So there's all these little things that were unintentional during that improvisation while working within the confines of those within those story beats, and then
ah,
cutting it together and make it feel like it was all in one seamless, one interrupted take. So the acting side of things, we weren't really acting at all. We were just reacting, which is the best kind of acting. And also I kept stuff from the actors to get some natural scares. For example, when Sarah was carving her face, that was a separate recording, and I just chucked it in the actual screen share. And so that reaction of Van Harrow, that was her in the first take, going like, "Oh my God, what am I seeing right there?" So that natural kind of like, if
it's
a
a
scenario were to happen, like if like David came in possessed, for example, like you're like, what? So kind of thing, so those kind of reactions. So rather than the generic way of kind of like, oh my God, like you would get in maybe in a conventional film, because screen life found footage, it's a very intimate, very personal point of view. And you can kind of tell when someone's saying, if someone's dialogue sounds scripted or not. And the aim is to make it feel not scripted and make it feel natural.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, and absolutely on that, on her reaction, it's like, because I guess at this point, if she's sitting in the room, she's doing a Zoom call with everyone, she could
Mm.
think, right, how is this is obviously fake, or something that's she wouldn't be in fear, she would literally be like, this guy's what, whoa, that's it's maybe a review of what's going on rather than
Yeah.
blind sort of fear.
Mm.
And I found that like throughout the entire film, I was just like, everyone is, like you said, they're not acting, and that is what makes, I think, draw of the performances really, really, really good. I mean,
Definitely.
if you don't mind me saying, we need to talk about that 5 minute fight between cartoon and the
Yeah.
demon. The demon.
Yeah.
When I was like, right, I thought initially I was like, there's no way this is going to play out right until the end, because obviously the lives, the sort of impact that the demon gets, it's quite small. And I was like, this
Mm.
is going to take a while. He's not going to show us the entire
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Showed the entire thing, and I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like, it's
Of course, I mean that's what the audience are going to be in for. This is the selling point of the film. It's about the game, so And then yeah, that was actually what my co-writer Richard Charlton said, because he saw a rough draft of my treatment, and there wasn't a lot of game. And Ricky said to me the reason why people were liking the short film version, the reason why I was doing so well, and the reason why people were encouraging me to turn to a feature was because of the game aspect, so make it more about the game. But I wanted to have that nice balance of characters that you spend time with, you grow to care about before I played the game. So then when it does come to where shit finally hits the fan and it comes to the game aspect, which people have been waiting to see, it adds more impact because you spent those times with friends and because of those natural performances. And I want to make the audience feel like they are part of the video chat. They feel like they've been invited. And the way I staged it, like us getting to know Anne Harrod for the first time, was actually real, because they got to learn about her. Some stories that were true, some stories that weren't true. But like Nathan and Sarah and me, we're getting to know who she is for the first time. Like the audience would get to know who we were for the first time. So I feel like that opening kind of 15 or so to 20 minutes was important, because then it adds more value to that second half of the film with with all the fun stuff with the
yeah,
game. So it adds more weight and value to it. And I think and you grow to care about these friends, and you don't want anything bad to happen to them. So that's like playing with people's fear. I think that's the true distillation of horror, is when it feels real, when it feels believable. And I think for the most part, I feel like we did it. I
yeah.
think.
I think in that setup as well, with the Zoom call. I mean, Zoom COVID is a sort of, everyone thinks of Zoom COVID
Yeah, host.
because
Yeah.
host. Yeah, I mean, I'd never heard of Zoom before COVID, but the whole world was in that scenario of
Mm.
being on Zoom calls with their friends, having watch parties, having a drink. So everyone can relate to that time and go, do you remember that time that happened? And this film is obviously there to sort of, represent that that sort of setup. And it's amazing because I think the whole format of the I don't know what it's called exactly. You might have to fill me in this one, but where you're looking at what's happening on their screen via laptop, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. What's the name of the format for those kind of
Oh, is
films?
it live streaming, isn't it?
Is that
Live
what it,
streaming.
that
Yeah.
makes sense? Yeah, it's amazing
There
because
was there was a film called, I think, Live Screamers, that involved like a video game as well with
There's two,
these
yeah.
gamers.
There's Live
Yeah,
Scream, and the sequel was Live Screamers. Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the
oh,
one.
I haven't seen that one. I'll need to check them out. So
They're
I
great,
remember
actually. They're really
they're
good.
quite good.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, they
yeah,
were really good. Yeah, especially the first one, because the first one was all one actor.
yeah.
And I like imagine doing like what I did with the four actors and how I was doing those invisible edits. This was just one person. There was no interchange or cut or anything. The first one, it was just one actor
Yeah.
carrying the whole hour and 10 minutes. I
You
thought
were you were
that's not
fully
easy.
in it. You were immersed in it. You know,
Mm,
it was great. I mean, I loved the first one, and I was really surprised when I came across it. And then to find out that the filmmaker she'd then done the sequel, and I think the sequel had four or five actors in them, but they're all in the same
yeah.
room, which I think from a production standpoint limited it down as well. So it scaled, but not enough to make it too convoluted in itself. But yeah, both worked extremely well within, what they were trying to achieve. Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, amazing! I'll need to check them out. It's amazing because I feel like there should be more of those type of films. I saw a couple of them in the cinema. I think I saw Host during COVID, which was I really enjoyed. I think there was Unfriended and a couple other ones that were
Yeah.
more
Yeah, there was
crime kind of, and they were really
Unfriended. Oh
good.
yes, Searching and Missing
Yes.
was one. That was the Screen Life thriller. It wasn't a horror, it was a thriller. I took a bit of inspiration from that. I was waiting for people to pick up on, because in my film Demo N, the artificial camera zooms with the game and stuff, that was literally taking a leaf out of Searching and Missing, which I thought was a very interesting, because it's quite risky, because you're doing something that's, because you're supposed to be playing within the confines, within the rules of Screen Life. Like, there wouldn't be
Yeah.
any artificial cameras on your computer screen, so why are you doing that? But I think because we come to a point now where everyone knows what found footage is now, you can't recreate a Blair Witch. You can't make people believe that what they're watching is happening for real. It's based on a true story. Everyone knows what a found footage movie is, and we're completely saturated with found footage. So what I liked about Searching and Missing, that I took on board the Demo N, and what I learned to discover coming off the back of that film, is like there's so much uncharted territory yet to be explored and found footage that only found footage can achieve. I feel like you can play in the sandbox and give it a nice cinematic touch to it and do some really cool and innovative things. And that was one of the reasons why we got a shout out from Dread Central and Fangoria. We were taking what were familiar tropes and that were done before. It's nothing out of the ordinary, but it's doing something with it, and doing it and adding like a fresh coat of paint to it, and
Yeah.
exploring new ways to do it. And I feel like we are scratching the surface with found footage, and this is what's kind of like spurred me on in onto this next feature, which I can tease a little bit about later on.
Yep.
But it's kind of
Okay.
like
Okay.
yeah, but there's kind of what I want to do for the next one is kind of like there's so many different avenues that I want to explore, but without it kind of like taking over the story, like listening to the voice of story and let the story drive it forward, and when not to do those innovative techniques or cool, awesome things. Telling a story, but about being kind of like being more like substance over style. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's funny that you said that, and I'm just looking at you on the screen, and then because it's your monitor, and it just sort of it did the artificial zoom in on you just then as you were talking
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Um, um, but I think going back to the touches that you can put in sort of in post, and how you can sort of emphasize scenes, they're great because they're complementary to what's most important in found footage, which is the performances and the story itself. And those two together, it doesn't matter how shaky your camera is, how bad quality it is, how terrible the editing might end up being. If you have those two things, it pulls you right into it, and you're just enveloped by the story in itself. And it just, if it's a scary story, it's horrifying. Like when you're watching Host and you realize, what is it? It's not even 60 minutes long.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And you come away from it and you like, it's over. This started 2 seconds ago and now it's over. And it doesn't mean that it was too short. It just means that you were just fully in it. You were expecting it to be an hour and a half or longer, but that's the thing with a lot of found footage is that generally they're not an hour and a half or 2 hour long feature films. They are a shorter period of time, but you are fully in that zone. You're immersed in this dread that these characters are feeling. And that's a testament to the writing and the performance. I mean, when Gary's talking about the fact that it's ad-libbed, and the same was the case with Blair Witch as well. They had their suggestions as to where to go and what to do, but the whole thing was them ad-libbing it as they went along and bringing the fear with them because they'd inhabited their characters so fully, and that's what you see
Mhm.
with Demo N as well. And any really great performance in a found footage film can really leave a mark.
Yeah, it's funny
Definitely,
talking about
definitely.
found footage there and the vertical. Is there maybe a connection between found footage movies to then vertical movies? Do you think maybe the idea was spawned from the vertical? Because obviously back then you would be carrying a bit of camera and things, and now as our cameras have got smaller and smaller and more compact and can lie next to us in bed, is it maybe that idea was maybe spawned from that from
Uh,
found footage?
in,
I
in
don't know.
Yeah, I mean, entirely possible. I mean, when we started talking about doing horror verticals, found footage was the first thing that we thought about because um, it is in that moment that you're filming it. It's not asking for a certain amount of special effects. It's not asking for the budget. It lends itself to that, which is why we lean into the story first and foremost. Um, yeah, so Joan's first film that we put out is found footage. Gerson's one is not. The Echo Hell Collective is, and it's Screen Life. And our horrors are running the gamut between horror comedy all the way up to body horror and anything in between. And we're open to the whole thing. But from a vertical perspective, it's just open to taking advantage of the situation, whatever it is, whatever your scene is, wherever you are, whether that be a daytime horror or nighttime or anything in between. I think it really opens it up to creativity all the way through, and it's going to be fascinating to see what Gary comes up with his vertical as well. No pressure, Gary.
Yeah. I'm not having sleepless nights at all.
Well, David said there was no pressure in terms of
No, no,
how
no, no.
long it takes you to get it out. But when do you think
No, of
roughly
course.
you'll get it?
Yeah, so I actually got Richard Charlton on board as my writer because out of the two, I am like based on because I knew Ricky back in my last animation job, and then when our contracts expired and we moved on, we stayed in touch since then because we both had a love for filmmaking and cinema and horror as well. Ricky is the writer out of the two. He was the guy who picked up the pencil. I was the one who picked up the camera. So having someone like him on board who knows storytelling just as good as I can tell a story, especially when it comes to writing, is a good person to have on your side and to form a limited partnership with. So he's got full writing credit for this vertical idea. I shared a draft or two with David about it. I'm just getting Ricky to do some final touches to it and agreements and so forth. And then the aim would be to allocate a day or two on when I want to shoot it and how we're going to do it, which is like the fun stuff for me. Is like how are we going to achieve this? How are we going to shoot it? What can we use? But currently we're at the end of locking the screenplay, among
Amazing.
other things that I'm working on as well, like another feature film idea and so forth. So yeah, which I can touch on.
Yeah, you can touch on it. Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, this next feature idea, It's been in development for about 5.5 years. So I was like in university when I had Gamma's idea. I was studying animation, and so long before Demo N was even the thought. But during that time while I was working on Demo N, and kind of off the back of that, I was thinking, what the next project should be like. Having another project ready just in case something does happen with Demo N, and obviously it did. And I had an idea for a completely different genre as well. I was thinking of a comedy at first, but with found footage. And I worked on that screenplay with Richard Charlton along with another co-writer, and we were going to pitch it to a filmmaker. I can't say who the filmmaker is, but he came across Demo in as well, and he loved it a lot, and he was really inspired by what I was able to achieve. I was going to pitch to this filmmaker when he was down in London, but he had to postpone, and basically I couldn't get this film picked up without this guy's support because he's quite a known name. So
Okay.
that was pushed aside, and then I went back to this horror idea that I developed 5 years ago, polished it, reworked it. I was just looking at all the bad writing, the terrible formatting back at the time when I wrote it. I was like, oh my God, this is in such bad shape. But yeah, so it's I would say for now it's another found footage film. It's a cosmic horror film, and it kind of has similar themes as Demo N, you could say, about blending and bridging the line between reality and fiction, because that's what Demo N was, the fiction being the game and the reality of everyone in the video chat. So it plays with similar themes and techniques. So it kind of like Demo N feels like a precursor to what this next one is. It feels like the next evolutionary step, and I feel like Demo N felt like a room for discovery and experimentation, and I feel like now we found a confident style that we carved out of that we can now execute and emulate and sharpen in this next venture.
Amazing.
But other
Amazing.
than that, that's all I'll say for now.
Okay, okay, got
Yeah.
it, got it. That's
Yeah.
David.
Yeah, I mean, in regards to Gary, as you know, we're hoping to assist, in any way that we can with Gary. That's part of the collective. We share and share alike, content as we go along, and whatever we can do to actually, bolster the marketing and the promotion of the films moving forward. As a production company, we're working now with feature films as well as verticals. So last count, we were working on 4 or 5 features in some way, shape, or form. And the idea was to take the marketing for films that are in the budget raising position all the way through until their sale to a streaming service or wherever they end up putting their film, and just working with podcasters and film reviewers and any other creative all the way through, finding them avenues within publications and basically just doing their marketing all the way through, rather than what is traditionally done with films, which is where you wait until the last month or month and a half before the film is due to come out, and then run a bunch of ads and hope that people go and see it to the movies or wherever it's going
Yeah,
to be.
yeah,
And the films that we're working with are low budget films. They're 40,000, 50,000 pounds and dollars respectively. So they have budget to be able to do something, but they don't have budget enough to be able to throw it into a marketing spend. And that's where the collective and our production side of things comes into it, because more than anything, we created EchoCell Collective to bolster independent horror filmmaking. We are all in love with horror. The horror community is a joyous, lovely bunch of people,
oh,
despite what horror
absolutely.
is supposed to be. Everybody is just such a generous and supportive person. So we saw no reason not to try and push that and support it as best as I can. I've got 20 years of marketing experience and a love for writing and filmmaking. So I wanted to lend what I had and bring it forward and do it that way. And I flatter myself to think that over the last 8 months since we started, we've scaled substantially, and it's working really, really well. And I'm hoping that it will continue to go in the vein that it is. There are some really, really talented people, and to be able to give any kind of support towards this, especially in a world where Netflix owns everything and Warner Brothers owns everything, and nothing is paid out to creators, and the support isn't given, or things are just taken advantage of. There are too many wonderful stories to be told, and amazingly talented individuals that need just a little bit of support. And as I say, there's more than 100 of us at this point, and everybody's just sharing each other's content. And the more we raise awareness about films all the way through, it goes into the zeitgeist, if you will. It's playing in the back of your mind, and then when the film actually comes out 6 months down the line, you go, "Oh, I remember that one. Oh, I'm definitely going to watch that one now. I've heard a lot about it all the way through," rather than just a last minute thing where it's one of the 4 or 5 films that's hitting the cinema this month, and I'll go and see it, whatever. I
Yeah.
want I want these films to grow for individuals. And if the work that we put into it helps them on to the next projects, it helps them sell it to a different streaming service, recoup their budget, move on to the next one. Most filmmakers that I've spoken to, they just want to be able to do the next project. They're not looking to quit their day job, although a lot of them would like to, obviously. But
Yeah.
that's not the goal of each film. The goal of each film is for it to be seen, to be appreciated for the hard work that they've done, and to have the opportunity to move on to the next one. And that's what we're trying to do.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, I mean, I can speak in behalf of my Gary and this Gary actually, but I mean, we've been with you for, I don't know, 7 months, maybe 6, 7 months,
Something
but
like that. Yeah.
me and Gary, the Horror Cut, have found you guys, extremely supportive, and it's been nice to, see everyone sharing their sort of what they've got coming up, the reviews, and just for a little bit of kind of general support. And it's just nice to know that that's there, because filmmaking in general doesn't matter if you're an actor, DOP, director, writer, doesn't matter. It's a tough game. And we all go through these kind of peaks and troughs of, sometimes I think I need to maybe look at doing something else. And then something comes in, and then it's like it just changes the whole perspective. It's sort of like you're not looking at the career through that sort of lens of what, success or whatever it is. So it's been really great to be part of EchoCell, and long may it continue.
Well, we're happy to have you. And yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Thank you again. I was getting a little bit emotional and sentimental there. But yeah, actually, what I was going to ask, I think we've got about 10 minutes left. I was going to actually ask you both. I was thinking about this kind of question just popped into my head earlier on today, and it was, is there a sort of moment for each of you where you sort of realized that you were into horror quite a lot, like when you became a fan?
I mean, for me, it comes to mind straight away. There's 2 things. I remember being on holiday in a Spanish island or something when I was maybe 9 or 10, something like that, with my parents and my brother. As you do if you're British, you just, like we all know, you just go to a Spanish island or something for holidays. And
Yep.
I remember waking up quite early because I was always a morning person, and everyone was fast asleep. And my brother had a copy of It by Stephen King, and I sat there and read the first few chapters, and pretty much just wet myself and never picked up the book again. And then later on in life, not even very long after, I think maybe a year or so later on, the Tim Curry version was on television. And I remember getting to the scene in the shower where he's in the drain, and yep, pretty much wet myself again. Stopped then. But it didn't stop me wanting to see more. It meant that I was terrified of seeing more at the same time. And not even long after that, then I'm watching Jaws with my feet up on the sofa, just waiting for the snap, and then it was Freddy and Nightmare on Elm Street again, almost not finishing the film simply because it terrified me because I was a 10-year-old watching this stuff. But it didn't stop me wanting to know more. And it didn't stop me going into the local video shop and looking at all the horror nasties and just picking up the backs of these, giant VHSs and looking at all these creature features and thinking, I can't get away with watching this, or maybe I can, that guy's only like 5 years older. Maybe I can get him to rent it to me. And I think I grew up in the golden age, the late 80s, early 90s of VHS horror, and I was really lucky. I have a strong memory of my dad renting films out of the back of somebody's car. Yeah, I'm 47 at this point, so I've got a little bit of longevity on this Perry, I think. But that was a bit surreal as well, and so it sort of scaled from there. But yeah, I can't get enough of it. Even when it does scare me, even more so when it scares. I get very bored with other things, but with horror, it never disappoints. It
Yeah.
frustrates sometimes, and you know full well the film could have done better. When you're watching it, maybe a big budget film, and they just forget about the script and they just throw it into the action or the imagery or the actors or whatever. But when it comes around to the story being strong and the character development, their performances, that's what sticks with you. Tim Curry still scares the crap out of me. That wolf from Neverending Story at the end, that got me. Freddie, what a dick. All the rest of it. That's that's what got me. That was my first foray into it, and it hasn't stopped since.
Amazing. Gary, how about
Wow.
yourself?
No, I was a bit freaked out when you told me like your dad used to get VHSs from the back of someone's van.
And he would come to your house as well. In the back of his car, he just rocks up,
That
and
that that's already a great horror concept in itself. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think maybe Child's Play was in there as well, and it was at the time of the Jamie Bulger case back in the UK as well. So God only knows.
Oh,
Wow,
that's
damn.
I remember that sort of. I mean, I was
Yeah,
that was was that 1990? I was five, but I remember
it
the
was.
sort of
Yeah,
a
it's.
story between James Bulger and the
Yeah,
James Bulger and Child's Play. I remember that connection.
they.
Wow.
It's like a lot of things. They said they said that they'd watched Child's Play, and that inspired them, which is exactly what happens with a lot of these right wing nut jobs that basically want to put video nasty and computer game nasty and the end of childhood and this distortion of people's mindsets and all the rest of it. It's just it was complete BS as far as I understand it. But yeah, I remember that being in the news at the time.
Yeah. Video nasties. What a time.
Yeah.
uh, Gary, how about yourself?
Oh well, me. Well, I don't know how I can top David's story, but I'll do my best. So so my first exposure to horror, I think, as far back as I can remember, I remember the Goosebumps on children's
Hmm.
TV. And
Goosebumps.
I,
Yep.
yeah, I was actually rewatching some of them because it's something I think you can watch some of them for free on YouTube as well. I remember some I watched as a kid. I was just like, how was daytime TV able to get away with this? Like being exposed to that's go crazy. So definitely Goosebumps. And I think the next one I watched Alien when I was 10. I used
Nice.
to like when my
Nice.
parents were out of the house, I used to like go to the little like drawer where we had like little VHSs and we had all the 18 rated ones. So when they were out, I was like, oh, what could we watch? And we had a double we had both Alien and Aliens, and I watched Alien on VHS. And I was never scared of the dark before Alien. After Alien, I was scared of the dark. So I used to be in bed at night, and then do you know when like when you look at night and you see like it's a bit you feel like you've seen something or some
Oh
weird
yeah,
shape.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
You get like the theater of the mind kind of thing. And I used to think like a xenomorph, like some phallic shaped head was gonna come out from my door frame. I was just like I was too scared to go to the bathroom, so I wait till morning because I was scared like a xenomorph might come and attack me. So I was the reason I'm scared of the dark and still am at times is because of Alien. And I think the next one I would say when I was going in filmmaking, when I started going on my filmmaking journey, was definitely John Carpenter's Halloween.
Okay.
Like
Mm.
Yep.
what they were able to do on, a low budget, and it's still to this day still the best Halloween movie ever made. And that
Oh
was made
yeah.
on like $350,000 at the time, and they shot it in 2 weeks, and what I loved and what I was inspired by was how he created a sense of atmosphere. I'm a real aura farmer when it comes to filmmaking and world building and something that you can invest the audience into, then trap them into this house of horror kind of thing. But I love the idea, like every Halloween, because my mum's birthday is on Halloween, so I'm a son of a witch, and so I'd watch Halloween. I'll go in a blanket, have a jack-o'-lantern on, and because I love seeing like Haddonfield at night, this suburban like cookie cutter neighborhood at night, limited lighting. You got that sense of like this aura, like this atmosphere of Haddonfield on Halloween night, and Michael is out there somewhere. And I like the whole mystique about Michael Myers as well. And like, the less you knew about his motives, the scarier it is, the fear of the unknown. And so that definitely impacted me going into filmmaking, as well as what you can do on a limited budget. And I would say the movie that kind of kicked me up the backside, saying, "Why are you waiting? Go make a movie now," was the original Evil Dead.
Oh, yeah.
Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, they're in their early 20s. They went out some shitty old cabin in the woods that's covered in cow manure, and they did whatever means necessary to get this film made.
Yeah.
And it became a groundbreaking film to now. It was awe-inspiring, and and again, like, it made them household names, and it led them on to doing great things in their lives. So I think those movies during those times in my life inspired me personally as well as professionally, and it kind of gave me that boost that you need. I say, like, you can go out and make a movie. No one's going to help you. No one's going to give you the money. No one's going to give you the opportunity. You have to go out and you have to make it. You have to persevere no matter what anyone tells you. And especially today's age where you can make a movie with your phone, like, again, like making a vertical short with Echo Cell Collective and put it on YouTube or Instagram and garner an audience out of that. And you're a filmmaker, just put your name at the end of it. I think James Cameron said, he said, like, all you need to do is shoot it and put your name at the end in the credits. Now you're a director. The rest is just budget and discussing your fee. I think that's what he said. I'm probably paraphrasing that, but somewhere along those
Good
lines.
paraphrase.
Yeah.
Great answers to both there, guys. It's interesting, David, you said about the VHS, looking at them and having that, as a kid, I did the same, and that's something that's definitely stuck. I remember looking at those films that some you'd seen, but some you haven't, and just looking at, you'd have like the little snippets of parts of the film in the back, and just like that, what your imagination would do seeing those images. And some were just, there was obviously gory ones, some were just, I don't know, a guy and a girl talking, but you'd be sort of thinking, what else is going to happen from that? And I think for some of us, for a lot of us of this age or whatever, but VHS video store has definitely got a lot of explaining to do.
It corrupted a generation. I was going to say
Completely.
for better or worse, but it's just for better. It's just for the better.
Yeah, just for better. Absolutely, absolutely. I remember my folks. They made me. I think they recorded The Changeling, George C. Scott, 1981 for me when I was 4, 5. It would have been in the old house, so it would have been before I was 7. And I remember them saying, we've recorded this film, because they knew I liked a little bit of horror. And I watched The Changeling, and it was some of that film still sticks with me today in terms of the sound design. There's certain parts of the film with the sound when I watch it today, I have to close my ears because it just, I guess if you want to use the word trigger, it does something to me from way back when I was a kid listening to that. It was just too much. Same with Candyman as well.
Oh yeah, good one. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I was thinking Hellraiser. There are some films that I think back to, because I think
Yeah.
to some extent I was exposed to Candyman and Hellraiser and the imagery from them, from the VHS copies, before I was the film actually seeing it. And before even seeing it, my mind had completely told me a story about how scary it was going to be, which meant that I didn't watch those for 10 years plus, because I knew full well they were terrifying for little David.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until 18, 19, 20-year-old David comes along and goes, they're still great, maybe not as horrific as I had in my mind, but they're still amazing. I mean, the VHS creature features that I stared up at because they were too high for me to reach, as a 10-year-old, I remember looking at them, and even now thinking back, there are so many titles that I have no idea what they were, but I know I haven't seen them since. I think there must have been a glut of these creature features that came out and just vanished from the world, because I know full well there were these images that just I haven't seen again,
You haven't,
that I
yeah.
saw on the back of the videos, and I just wish I could find some of them, because even hours of Googling and searching for VHS, monster movies from the 80s, just it's never enough.
Hmm. Hellraiser
That's amazing.
is a good example because I think that was the first because I used to have a local VHS store, and I think Hellraiser was the one where I was just like I was too scared to even touch it, let alone
Yeah,
look at it. It's just something that I think it's something that I think is missing, that it definitely needs to come back, especially when it comes to marketing with movies, having a very strong poster. And there's something about
yeah,
movie posters of the 80s and the early 90s, like that really strikes the imagination of the viewer before they even know what the film is about as well.
Absolutely.
I think you're right.
And sometimes the poster would be better than the movie as well,
Yeah,
Oh,
because
definitely.
sometimes
Yeah.
sometimes, like for example, the well, Goonies is a great movie anyway, but Goonies, for example, completely different genre, but that had a story, but it kind of gave you an idea of what it is that you're in for without telling
yeah,
you and the audience kind of like paints a picture or makes a movie their version of what this movie is about in their head before they go and see it, and that used to so having a really a good poster goes a long way in kind of, especially when it comes to promoting an original IP that isn't a sequel or a remake or a
yeah.
pre-existing franchise. I think that's definitely something that needs to be kind of like um focused on more in the marketing side of things, because I think like
I agree. I think
it's an art form in itself.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
No,
Mm,
100%.
mm,
I mean, the amount of the posters that were done back then were made by artists in themselves. It wasn't just
mm.
done, on a computer, using your own talents or whatever. Because there's a lot of diluted posters out there at the minute that are just aren't particularly inventive in themselves, and some are just sheer bait and switch. You see the poster and you think, oh, this is going to be amazing, and then you know full well once you're watching it, like, nope, it's just poor in comparison. But I remember being at the VHS store, and they would give us the old posters that they'd had in the windows. They had
Yeah. Yeah.
plenty of copies, so
Mm.
we'd have these smaller versions, and then we'd have the larger ones, and my room was just completely covered in them. And yeah, these striking images, I think if you can scare the audience before they've even gone into the movie just by the poster, I think you are onto a huge winner there.
Mm.
Absolutely. And I think nowadays, if you were into a shop and says, "Can I get that poster in the window?" they would probably say, "We need to do a risk assessment, make sure you don't get a paper cut." Yeah, whereas back in the day, it was just like, "There you go." Or they would say, "Do you know
Yeah.
what? Come back next week because then the film will, they moved on. You can give you anything you want." I think at the
Yeah,
Texas
yeah.
Chainsaw, I had loads. It was just like, "There you go, brilliant." Gone are
I,
the
I could never
days.
get I could never get the standing ones, the
Oh.
standing pieces. I could only get the posters. They wouldn't give you those ones because they had to go back to the studio for some reason. Because for the other they would have just destroyed them, but maybe they would send them on to a different store or something. But could never get the standing ones.
So it's funny. I'm going to actually tell you this quick story, but I am conscious of the time. But we used to go to the Showcase Cinema and just outside of Glasgow, and one night we went and saw Bruce Almighty, and there was a big sort of the big standee, and it was Bruce lying down, kind of in the clouds, pointing, and the clouds are covering
Uh-huh.
his groin because
Yeah.
he's naked, and we were like, when we leave here, we're going to take that, right? So we did. So this was like the last showing of the night, and then we managed to just go in, take it. Took about maybe two or three of us to lift it because it was really, really long. Didn't know what we were going to do with it once we got it. But anyway, as we were walking past the Hollywood Bowl, which was closed, the bowling that was just up the road from it, that was getting broken into. We literally saw a group of guys pull up in a car. Four of them jumped out, baseball bats, and started smashing the door.
Yeah.
Uh,
We stopped in the car park behind a floating standee of Bruce Almighty. The guys turned round and they just saw Bruce Almighty just walking past. And then they must have been like, what's going on? And then we just went, run. And we just ran.
Even this is a scene from a movie. It has to be made.
This is like a great comedy skit, like, you know, like one of those late night comedy skits right there. That's just brilliant. It's just people breaking in and seeing like a naked Bruce Almighty go by like a train or something.
Ah, good times, good times. But this was a lot of fun as well. I appreciate you guys coming on. It's been an
Thank you for
absolute
inviting us.
blast. No problem at all. No problem at all. Hopefully it's not the last. On EchoCell, David, anything else you want to say just before we wrap up?
Yeah, just to say, EchoCell is a fully inclusive horror community. If you are into horror and you want to take part, ping me a DM. You know, like our content, you know, share it, comment, whatever. We're here, and we want to hear from you.
Brilliant, David. Thank you. And Gary.
If you love horror, you want to be a filmmaker, or you are a filmmaker, and you want an audience, you know, reach out to David.
I should have said there, sorry. I should have said, can you just tell us where we can see Demo N, please, if that's okay?
Oh, yes, sure. Yeah, well, we are currently on about 17 platforms, but I'd say the big ones, I'd say it's on Found TV, it's on Tubi, it's on Screenbox, it's on Apple TV, and Roku.
Excellent, guys. Well, that's us for another week on the Horror Cut Show. As always, I'm still Steg. Please join us next time where we will find out if still Gary still has his liver intact from his trip to see Scotland in the World Cup. As always, thank you for listening. You can follow the podcast at the Horror Cut Show on Instagram, TikTok and Facebook. You can also join the Facebook group where you can leave your thoughts and comments on the films that we are discussing. And if you're loving what you're hearing, you can rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we will see you next time when we will be reviewing... Well, we haven't decided yet. Cheers!